Namaste, everyone. Sajaste means natural in me, affirms natural in you. And welcome to the International Yoga and Music Festival organized by Nada Yoga School in Rishikesh on behalf of Bhuvanji, Mohanji, Rohit, Mohan, all the wonderful team. This is our tradition, parampara, for the last 12 years. In the past, it was always in person, but as you know, because of COVID, we went online. So before I go into the theme of today, which is yoga and Samkhya philosophy, I would like to chant a mantra which will give you the essence of the yoga, the goal of the yoga. धर्म देहम धर्म मानस धर्म बुद्धि आत्मा धर्म प्रियजन धर्म सर्वजन धर्म देश धर्मे धरा धर्म ने हम धर्म एकम धर्म ही गतिशीलता धर्म जीवन धर्म चेतन धर्म ही आनंद परम सहजम अस्ति 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 This mantra tells you the essence of all yogas, all spiritual paths. It means right care of my body, feelings, mind, and soul, right care of my family, community, country, and earth. Let this right care come with a sense of oneness, love, and constant movement forward. And let this right care bring me the bliss of conscious existence. I affirm this, I affirm this, I affirm this in my naturalness. My name is Jivasu, a part of Nada Yoga School. My own teachings are called Naturality, which is decoding, demystifying, democratizing enlightenment. But I'm going to explore with you the yoga and Samkhya in next 50 to 55 minutes. So first thing, we have to be clear that we live in the state of viyog, because we cannot understand yoga unless we know where we are. And I'm not talking about all, but lots of people, they live in a state of viyog. Viyog means when we suffer, have sorrow, pain, despair, loneliness. Because yoga means union and viyog means disunion, fragmentation, division. That this body and mind has so many parts to it, and those parts within me, my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts are not in harmony. In fact, they are in conflict with each other. So if you really look into the mind, your whole structure of emotions and thoughts, you will find what we call ourselves, our ego, sense of I has multiple pieces. That is why somebody said, I want peace of mind. I said, how it is possible? Because your mind is made up of so many pieces, and those pieces are fighting with each other. So you cannot contemplate, think that your mind will become peaceful because it is made up of pieces and they are in conflict with each other. But you have to find something which is beyond mind. And approaching that, your mind will fall into its natural rhythm. And that whole process of getting into the rhythm, a natural rhythm of your body and mind and beyond, it is yoga. So yoga is a movement from Viyog into this harmony. There is a huge number of yogas, but I would like to explore one of the greatest sages, Kapil, who gave us the philosophy and teachings of Samkhya. We have to be very clear one thing when we say philosophy, please don't think this is a intellectual philosophy, it is contemplative philosophy, it is speculative philosophy. Because a lot of philosopher, most of the philosopher, it is all intellectual. All these sages, when they wrote, when they propounded a doctrine, a method, it was their direct experience. That is why we call it darshan. Darshan means direct seeing. Mujhe darshan ho gaye. It is a direct seeing. So whatever I'm going to explore, you have to be very clear that you can realize it. So Kapil gave the teachings and philosophy of Sankhya, and he gave meditation. In fact, Kapil's disciple taught Buddha. Idea of meditation and freedom or liberation through meditation came from Kapil to Buddha, but of course, Buddha took it to a new peak, a new height. So that is number one. Number two, lot of these teachings had no place of God in it. These are scientific teachings. Because there is a one type of science which we do in laboratory, but this is the science of my mind and body. My mind and body becomes laboratory where I test this science of yoga. And Kapil gave that science, and out of that science emerged two sister sciences, sub branches. One we call Ayurveda, focused and helping our body and mind to stay healthy. And the second is Patanjali's eight-limbed yoga, which took further from this healthy mind and body to pure consciousness, the ultimate samadhi, which Patanjali called Kaivalya, the absolute aloneness. So yoga and Ayurveda are the direct results of the teaching of Sankhya by Kapila. And Sankhya means enumeration, calculating the total elements of cosmos, the whole existence. is made up of multiple elements and they function in harmony. So you can see Kapila was very precise. He said it is a mathematics, it is a science. You need not to be lost in unnecessary poetry, unnecessary mystery. And Swami Vivekananda called Kapila the first world psychologist. If you go into modern psychology, there is not even one element which is missing in Sankhya teachings because it is from direct experience. It is not an intellectual speculation. So now, where Kapil starts, science starts with the matter. Spirituality starts from ultimate consciousness. That is why there is so much of conflict, battle between two. Because science says whatever is perceivable through the senses, through the mind, through my body is the truth. Spirituality says what you see, what you perceive, what you feel is only a fraction of reality. Most of the truth is not visible. You cannot smell it, you cannot taste it, you cannot hear it because it is beyond the senses. And in fact, quantum physics is proving that. Because quantum physics first time said whatever world you see of the gross matter is not the last one. There is a microscopic world. There is a subtle world which you cannot experience through the senses. So in science, we start with the matter and energy. In spirituality, we start with ultimate, the very peak of consciousness and also energy. But that energy is subtle, energy is potential, not what we experience in our daily life. So that is where couples 25 elements start. And the first and primary element, he called element, of course, we cannot classify as an element, is consciousness, Purusha. And the second element is Prakriti, the energy and matter. A lot of people ask this question, what is life? How to describe life? If you go to Ayurveda, Ayurveda claims it is the science of life. And also if you go to Samkhya philosophy from where the Ayurveda evolved, it described life very clearly. And I would like to narrate, to describe what is life. Life is a harmonious combination of consciousness and energy. You look into a single cell evolved 4 billion years ago on this earth, how it was different from the matter, pure energy, because it was conscious. So if you have to define life, these two elements have to be there, the consciousness and energy. Once they come together, life is formed. So you take a single cell, amoeba, paramecium, a plant, an animal, human being, all of them have same common feature, consciousness and energy. So a material body, energetic body, but in this resides this consciousness. Of course, the consciousness of an amoeba, of a single cell, of a virus, of a bacteria is different from human consciousness. Because the beauty of our consciousness is we are conscious of the consciousness, what is called self-awareness, which is present in some animals also, but in human beings, It is touching its peak. That is why in humans, the evolution is conscious. So, what Kapila was talking, that rest of the living being, the plants, the animal, the bacteria, and virus, they cannot evolve consciously. That is why he was giving all his teachings. What he said, whatever is possible in evolution ever, we human beings can achieve. We can condense millions of years of evolution in one lifetime, in 1 year, and maybe in 15 minutes. That is what Raman Maharshi did. That 10 to 15 minutes experience at the age of 15, at the age of 17, and he became an enlightened sage. So the whole idea of yoga, whole idea of Sankhya teaching is conscious evolution. But in order to understand that, we have to know what is my goal. If I don't know my goal, I will be wandering everywhere. And that is why in Sankhya teaching, the top two elements, consciousness and energy. When consciousness and energy, when Purusha and Prakriti, they meet, with that meeting is born Mahat, the cosmos, the grand universe with all its possibilities. And from the universe comes individual soul, ahamkar. The part of it is buddhi, the sense of I-ness. So we are descending from the Purush and Prakriti, the consciousness energy, to the universe, to the cosmos, and to the individual. And intellect is the part of that individuality. And we go down further, then we come to the mind, emotional mind, feeling mind, which perceives through senses. And we go further down, then comes the body. So you can see from the very top, pure consciousness, pure energy, to the cosmos, to the individual with the intellect, and then the mind, emotions and feeling, and then the body at the very bottom of it. And that very bottom part is the beginning of all science, but it is the last part of this evolution according to sage Kapil. And what happens? There's somewhere along with this, at the level of individuality, we become oblivious of our own nature, that we are pure consciousness, we are Kaivalya, we are pure energy. And that is what Patanjali called ignorance. Because Patanjali mentioned in Yoga Sutra, there are 5 kleshas, 5 poisons, 5 problems which are responsible for Panchvrati. Because what is yoga? Yoga is Chittavrati Nirodh, prevention of those 5 modification, 5 changes, 5 waves in the ocean of pure consciousness, the Purusha. And the reason behind the cause of these 5 modification are Panchklesha, ignorance called avidya, asmita, I-ness, rag, attachment, dvesh, aversion, abhinivesh, clinging to the life at all cost, destroying everything around us. So somewhere along this line, when we descend from above, from our pristine consciousness and energy, we develop ignorance. And out of that ignorance, we forget about ourselves. So that is why some people call yoga as remembering, recognizing again who we are. There is nothing to be achieved. It is already there. Kapila said it so beautifully. From top to bottom, it is a single spectrum of truth. But because of the split at the level of individuality, we forget all the stages, all the states which we have inherent in us, and we cling to the lower states, forever wandering. And that wandering is called samsara. Because if I'm living only in partial truth, I'm only going to get a partial satisfaction. Because so much is hidden from the sight, from my mind. That means my own life. So let's be clear again. Pure consciousness and pure energy creates a full life, fullness of life. And I think sometimes we experience it also in the moments of flow, in the moments of achievement. Suddenly, in those moments, if we are watching a sunset, seeing a beautiful face, get extreme joy and rapture in the moments of creativity or during yoga or during meditation, what we experience is a moment of full life. Ask the skydivers and the racers and surfers. These are the extreme sports people. And why they do extreme sports, why they climb such high mountain, risking their life? Because they get a moment, a glimpse of that pure life. And in those moments, they touch this pure consciousness and also pure energy. But the moment doesn't stay. They come crashing because we cannot stay that pure life about which Kapila talked, the pure consciousness and energy. So most of the people live only a partial life. And that is why, because we live a partial life, we are constantly thirsty of it. And in order to quench thirst for life, we are involved in a million things. We accumulate money, we accumulate power, we use drugs, we use sex, we do millions of things. Why we do? To get that glimpse of life for which we are craving constantly. Not knowing that source, very source of that life is within me. And that is what Kapila say, come to that pure consciousness, come to that pure energy, you will find it. And once you drink from the source, our thirst will be quenched forever. Because it is a part of it. So no matter what we get in outer world, we can never be satisfied. Even if I become the master of the universe, the lord of this earth, still I will remain dissatisfied. And that thirst for life is the reason behind all violence, all exploitation, all manipulation, everything which is going on in the human world. So that is where the yoga is a process. And I will say yoga and Ayurveda both. So please, when you take the discipline of yoga, Anushasana of yoga, Ayurveda has to be the part of it. And I think in a lot of these yoga courses, Ayurveda is taught. Why? Because Ayurveda has to give us the fundamentals of body and mind to know our nature, our prakriti, our personality. Because without knowing that, I will be wandering into all kinds of unnecessary things which are working against me. Because these two sister sciences, they come from the same teachings of Samkhya, of Kapila. So the whole movement of creation is from pure consciousness and energy all the way to the body. Started from Mahat, the universe, the individual soul, intellect, mind, and the body. Now I have here mind and body, and if I know about mind and body, then my journey starts back. I am retracing my steps up to reach to the first two elements of Purusha and Prakriti, consciousness and energy. It is very important because a lot of people think that they can bypass their mind and body. Because once they listen to these philosophies, very high philosophy, they think they can take a leap, they can take a jump. But that was not the intention of Patanjali. That is why Patanjali gave Ashtanga Yoga. 8 limbs. 8 limbs means it is a science. It is an algorithm. These are steps, and you cannot bypass any step. You may jump to the third step, but then you have to come to the first step also. Because otherwise, it won't be a total fulfillment, which lots of people do. Listening to somebody's teachings, listening to somebody's philosophy, they want to bypass. That is just not possible. So after Sankhya, Patanjali put 5 kleshas, 5 poisons, 5 causes of suffering, and I would like to enumerate them again. The first one is avidya or ignorance. And this ignorance is not total, it is partial, because still I know about this world, I'm familiar with this world, I'm accumulating degree, knowledge, I'm writing books, but that is also ignorance. Ignorance means here I know only the part of the total truth. I don't know the whole truth. And because I know only the part of the truth, whatever I do will remain fragmented, conflicted, full of fear, full of sorrow and despair. So, avidya, ignorance, number one. Now, coming to the second, which is asmita, a sense of I-ness. I-ness is absolutely essential in a child. If a child is not developing a sense of I-ness, there is a problem. So when Patanjali said don't have a sense of I-ness or asmita is a poison, he talks when we become adult. Because that I-ness is needed to function in the world, to get education, to get a job, to get married or have relationship, to build a house. For that, I need I, me, mine. Because without that, we can't function. If this I is not present, this asmita is not present in a child, means child either has a profound mental retardation or brain damage. But after the age of 20 to 25, the same asmita, same I, which was so necessary in a child or a young person, becomes a poison. Why? Because this I creates a separation. It is like becomes a rigid boundary around me. It separates me from the others, from the nature, and it separates me from my own self, my own pure consciousness, my own pure Kaivalya state. And Jean-Paul Sartre, a famous French philosopher, so beautifully said, he said, other is hell. Means when I develop this sense of I, other person seems like a problem. That is why we don't trust many people. If you can have in your life one or two people whom you can trust, it is a very big achievement. Because we don't trust people because of the sense of I, the asmita. But you know to whom we trust the best? Our cats and dogs. We love them dearly. We can trust them totally. Why we can trust them totally? Because they don't have a sense of asmita. They are governed by nature. They don't have a sense of I. So we feel so comfortable with them. We feel so easy with them. So after avidya is asmita, a sense of I-ness. Third one is rag. Rag means attachment. Now, why I get attached? Because a lot of people ask this question, why we get attached? What we get in attachment? What is the meaning of attachment? Attachment means when I get connected to a person to get life from that person. What I get from attachment is life from other people. Why? Because when I'm deficient of life within myself, I have to get it from somewhere. I may get that life from the car, from my house, from my money, from my power, from my status, from my education, from my children, from my parents, from my relatives, from my spouse. That is why we get attached. Why attachment is there? Because I am living through others. I want to live my unlived life through others. That is why I get attached. That is why I will ask my children to follow my path, to do whatever I want, to get married to a person whom I want. This is children's life. They are free. Why, as a boss, I exploit my employees? Why, in a relationship, in a loving relationship, I want to dominate my partner? What I get out of this? I get life. I'm sucking life from them because I feel that whatever way I'm living, I'm doing is the right way. And that is why nearly all evil of this world are done because of this attachment. Because I want to live through others. We manipulate, we exploit, we make others our slave. That is rag. So Patanjali said so beautifully, this rag, attachment, attachment. That is the reason behind attachment, because I'm not living fully. I don't have enough life within me. I'm going to suck. I'm going to get this life through others, including material things, including drugs, including sex, including all the objects which I can gather in my house, and I get attached to them. So the first poison, the first klesha, avidya or ignorance, second asmita is sense of I-ness, and the third is raga, the attachment. And the fourth is dvesh, aversion, aversion. So I get attached to few things, but I hate other things. That is why our mind is bipolar. In psychiatry, there is a illness which is called bipolar disorder, MDP, manic depressive psychosis. And people who suffer through it, they go through alternate mania and depression. So for few months they will be in hyper energy, and for few months they will be in depression. But actually most people suffer from bipolar disorder. Only thing is somehow they are able to carry this life, so-called normal, although what we call normal life in the world is not so normal. And that is why J. Krishnamurti said so beautifully, to adapt to the society which is profoundly sick is not a measure of health, right? Because most people, if you really look into their life, are they contented? Are they happy? Are they creative? Do they feel comfortable in the world? No. But because most people are like that, so we think it's a normal state. Just like if you go into a village where everybody is born with one eye, everybody will think one eye is normal, unless somebody comes from outside and tells, listen, there are actually two eyes which are normal. So what I'm trying to emphasize, if you really look into the nature of the mind, it is bipolar. But because we are able to function in the world, because most people have it, so we think it is normal. And what is that bipolarity? Rag, dvesh, rag, dvesh, attachment, aversion, attachment, aversion, just like a pendulum. Here we are attached one day, and the next day we may feel aversion going to other pole. And then from aversion, again attachment, attachment. And so the pendulum goes. And that is why Buddha said so beautifully about it. And you know, Patanjali's yogas were deeply influenced by Buddhist teachings. Because Buddha was 6th century BC and Patanjali 4th century BC. So this attachment and aversion and what we call mindfulness, what we call vipassana, I think some of you did, what we develop a middle path. And middle path means neither attachment nor aversion. Something in between, a state which transcends both aversion and attachment. But what I wanted to emphasize, that we constantly move from attachment to aversion, because that is the very nature of the mind. So Patanjali put it so beautifully. I mean, this is the beauty of these great people, that they will take huge number of possibilities and realities and put them into few words. So rag, dvesh, the bipolarity, and finally abhinivesh, clinging to the life, fear of dying. Fear of dying goes into the very human heart and soul. And this is fear of dying is not about physical body. So now we have to understand, because a lot of people think, oh, clinging to life means this bodily life. No, we cling to our asmita, our ego. That is the primary problem in human being. It is not the physical dying. It is my self-image, a sense of I, what I think about myself. That is what is called clinging to the life. Because you know that so many people sacrifice their life for their nation as soldier. Many people become suicide bombers. They blew their body. So it is not about the bodies. It is about my I. Why they go for suicide bombing? Why a soldier die? Because they feel their I, their self-image, their sense of self is going to live forever. That is why we have children. Why we have children? Why we leave works of art? Why we build palaces and pyramid? Why we want to leave our legacy? Because we feel after our physical death, because physically we are going to die, but after my death, something will live on. That is why we create so many things in this human world. Animals don't have that idea. We have it. Clinging to the life, clinging to the life of ego. That is the root cause of the problem. And one great anthropologist, philosopher, and writer, Ernest Baker, wrote so beautifully about it. Denial of death. He said very conclusively, whatever we do in human world to deny my death, my dying, and this is not physical dying. It is my dying of self or ego. That is why ego creates time, future, 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 future. More future means I'm going to live forever. That is a search of ego, clinging to the life. Life means all the future. So that is why a lot of teacher talk about living in here and now, in this moment. How ego could live here and now, because ego wants to become immortal. But in yoga, immortality is not about endless time. In yoga, immortality is going beyond time. So there are two types of immortality. One immortality is of ego, which is seeking to live forever for 1,000 years, 2,000 years. That is why a lot of futuristic people, they want to create a human being who will live for 10,000 years. But even after 10,000 year, person is going to die. So that is difference between science and yoga. Science wants endless time. Future will go forever. What yoga wants? A different kind of immortality. And that immortality is beyond time, timeless, eternal. Because anything which is born in time is going to die in time. Once you take a leap beyond time, and that is what precisely happens in Kaivalya, the last samadhi after Dharma Mega Samadhi. This absolute aloneness means where there is no time. Time comes to a complete, absolute standstill. And first time we have a taste of immortality. So these five poisons of avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh, they cause five chittavrati. Chit means consciousness, the tranquil, the pure, still, without time, without a sense of space. But what happens in this vast, infinite ocean of consciousness? There are constantly rising these waves, turbulence. And if you watch ocean or lake or a river, if there are too many waves, we cannot see anything clearly. That is why we move from one confusion to another confusion. There is so little clarity in our life. Why? Because these thought waves, these waves of emotion, these waves of feelings are constantly rising and disappearing, rising and disappearing. Even in the most relaxed moment, we cannot stop them. Even in the night, they appear in our dream. What are the dreams? The dreams are the same chitta vrati. They are never absent, even in deep sleep. In deep sleep, they are very faint, but nonetheless, they are still there, very, very faint. That is why usually in deep sleep we don't dream, because by then these chitta vrati are very gentle. So these five poisons, kleshas, are they create five chitta vrati. Now, in order to understand these chitta vrati, because yoga is chitta vrati nirodh, we have to be very clear. What we call positive from yoga point of view is an obstacle. A lot of people think if I'm doing good, I'm doing charitable work, I'm helping others, serving others, I'm compassionate to others, it is wonderful. We must do it all. But from yoga point of view, we must understand that doing good is not good enough. We have to transcend both good and bad. So from bad, we move to good, and from good, beyond. Because good is also a karma, just like bad is also karma. Whether it's a good karma or bad karma, both of them are bondage. We are not going to be liberated. So that is why these panchvrati, after panch kleshas, are right knowledge, wrong knowledge, memory, sleep, and imagination. These are the panchvrati. So even right knowledge is not the right knowledge from yoga point of view. What is called praman, which I can see or somebody tells, yeah, this is the right thing, because that right thing is only relevant in this world. Even that right knowledge may be an illusion, because it is not a complete truth. What we call common sense. So a lot of people think common sense is all we want to achieve because that is good, but from yoga point of view, that is not good. So right knowledge, wrong knowledge, memory, sleep, and imagination. Imagination means creativity. So when you watch a movie, when you are reading a fictional book, that is what called imagination, because that is not your direct experience. That comes purely from the mind. These are the panchvrati, these are the five thought waves, emotional waves, which are constantly stirring our psyche, our mind, our emotions, our body, our brain. I won't have time to elaborate upon that, but I will just give a passing reference. So, starting with right knowledge. What is the right knowledge? Right knowledge is when I see something. So suppose I see a car And I will say, yes, car arrived at my door. That is the right knowledge. Or I'm not able to see the car, but I can hear the sound, and I will say, yes, a car arrived. Neither I'm able to hear the sound nor I am able to see the car, but my son comes and tells me there is a car arrived at the door. This is called right knowledge. But this right knowledge is good for the senses, but in context of the whole universe, whole consciousness, it is only a partial truth. Because what happens, I get stuck with this right knowledge in all spheres of life, including my relationship, including my job, because that limits me. And there is a beautiful story of a Zen master, Bodhidharma. He went to China. Emperor welcomed in his empire. And this emperor asked Bodhidharma, what will be my rewards? Because I planted so many trees, I helped so many people, I distributed so much wealth. And what Bodhidharma did, he took off his shoe, put on his head, and started dancing. Emperor was so shocked. He said, sir, what you are doing? He said, oh emperor, you will go to hell. Emperor was very disturbed. He went into the night to ask Bodhidharma why he will go to hell in spite of doing so good. Everything he is doing with rationality. He said, because the bad karma binds, so is the good karma. The bad knowledge binds you, so is the right knowledge. So please don't think this right knowledge is very inadequate, insufficient, ultimately to achieve the state of yoga. So that is about right knowledge. Second chittavrati is wrong knowledge. Of course, wrong knowledge we know. And one of the wrong knowledge is very common, like if you are walking through a desert and you see the mirage. Mirages of water, as if there is a water. Sometimes even in India, when roads become very hot during summer, you feel as if there is a water floating above the road. That is what is called wrong knowledge. Or you are going through the forest in the night and you see the ghost, or in the darkness, ghost appears, because that comes from our mind. So the right knowledge, wrong knowledge, and memory also, because the quality of memories, it's ever changing, it is never still, it is never fixed. So even the memory is a disturbance, it creates problem, it binds us, because we know we are bounded by our past, good or bad. So if I had a trauma, if I was abused, if I was assaulted, my relationships were broken, all those memories are sitting. And actually, J. Krishnamurti said very clearly about that we are nothing else but our past. And that memory we call karma. What is karma? All karma without exception is memory. And all karmas are disturbing. That is why we want to go beyond karma. So the right knowledge, the wrong knowledge, the memory, and of course, sleep. Sleep is also a chittavrati. Why? Because something in us never sleeps. Something in us never sleeps. And when we achieve that state, what it is called? Turiya. Turiya. Turiya, the fourth state, so beautifully described. Because if you really go into the word, the word Om, Om contains four states: sleep, dream, waking state, And fourth is Turiya. Turiya is when something is totally awake in us. So that is why sleep is actually a disturbance. Of course, body needs sleep, but here we are talking about consciousness. Consciousness never sleeps. It is always present. So whenever we sleep, when we become unconscious in our sleep, that is also a chitta vrati. And of course, finally comes the imagination, fantasy, when our mind takes off into the fantasy. When we remain connected with the word, this fantasy become a film, a novel, a story, a gossip. And when we are disconnected from the word, it becomes a psychosis. It becomes a schizophrenia. It becomes all kind of mental disorder because we are disconnected from our surroundings and the mind is taking off on its own tangent. Just like in a drug experience, we are disconnected from the world. So it becomes a distortion. And Beatles wrote a beautiful song about it, Lucy with the Diamond in the Sky. It tells that state. So these are the five chit vratis. So now I would like to sum up Kapil's Sankhya, pure consciousness, pure energy, universe, individual self, mind, and body. One spectrum, we are in the state of mind and body. That is how we live in this world. So we start with our mind and body through Ayurveda, and then yoga comes, we go beyond mind and body. And Patanjali's yoga and Ayurveda, two sister sciences, emerged from Sankhya teachings. And Patanjali's five kleshas, five poisons, five problems are ignorance, egoism, attachment, aversion, clinging to ourself, to our ego. And they create five disturbances which create confusion and conflict, split, fragmentation, division, right knowledge, wrong knowledge, memory, sleep, and imagination. So these create viyog, separation, fragmentation. And when we are healing these viyogs, this fragmentation and divisions, that is called yog, union. Everything comes together. And in that process, we trace our path back to our original nature, from the body to the mind, to the intellect, to the soul, to the universe, to the Prakriti, and finally we reside in pure Purusha, the pure consciousness. And Patanjali called it Kaivalya, the absolute aloneness. There is no other because there is no division. Only in division there is a other. When there is a no division, this is called aloneness, not loneliness. When there is a division, there is a loneliness. In the midst of all crowd, we may feel so lonely. But in this state, we are fully with ourselves. And what is the state of Kaivalya? It is absolutely full. And because this state is full, so there is no desire. And it is full of energy. So in this moment, our thirst for life is quenched forever. Now we are not seeking life through others. Actually, we become the source of life. So that is the quality of a yogi who gives life to others. Because a yogi's thirst is quenched. Now he or she becomes the source. And that is the goal of yoga, realization of Samkhya teachings of Kapila, sage Kapila. So, with that, I would like to stop here and thank you very much for joining us for the International Yoga and Music Festival organized by Nadi Yoga School Rishikesh. And please enjoy because there are wonderful sessions are coming. So just access them, explore them, experience them, and enjoy them. So thank you very much once again. And Sahajaste is greeting in naturality. That means natural in me affirms natural in you. Because whether we believe in God or not, whether we believe in divine or not, we are all given our nature from the nature. And in yoga is also affirmation of ultimate of our nature. So thank you again and hope to see you again.